Yeah, hello and welcome to a new edition of my program, The World in the Pocket. Today I speak to Rachel Shackleton, a naturopath and a medical herbalist and kinesiologist. Good afternoon, Rachel. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, Gabby. I'm doing good, thank you. Nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you as well. Unfortunately, not yet in person, but that will become a little bit later, I guess. So you were in, may I say so, in big business, in the hotel industry, had your own company, but at one point you understood you need to look more after your employees, after yourself. So you started with a kind of well-being training, is it right?
Yes, yes, more or less. So in my at some point in time, I realized that I couldn't keep up the pace I was doing. So I started to think, well, what am I going to do when I get a little bit older and I need to slow down? And that's when I started to look into natural health, because it's something that's always fascinated me. And that's when that's really the motivation that spurred me to learn, firstly, to be a kinesiologist, and then the naturopathy and herbal medicine followed some years later, actually.
Mm-hmm. So how did you start with these training in companies? Did you offer courses or did companies approach you?
Actually, it's again, it's come out of sitting down with myself and thinking, well, firstly, I was seeing clients, treating clients, and I kept looking at all these symptoms and thinking, the bottom line is stress. Why are people so stressed? And I began to look into that a little bit more deeply. And one cannot attribute all stress by any means to the workplace, but a large amount can be can come from the workplace and how the person is handling different situations, whatever those situations might be. And then I began to think, well, this is a bit odd. I've got people that I'm treating individually for their health, but I'm actually coaching them on how to handle themselves in their workplace environment, in relation to perhaps their bosses, in relation to saying no, in relation to speaking their truth, all kinds of things. And I thought, well, this is odd. I've got all these wonderful skills. How do I bring them together? And that's when I started to design the Workplace Wellbeing series and work with companies.
Mm-hmm. Can companies book you like online, or are you now again going to companies, or how is it working? Or do you work more one-to-one with employees?
Seldom do I work with one-to-one with employees, unless they choose privately to come and see me. That's another avenue, if you like. So normally what I do is I will look at what organizations are already doing and look at how do we bring well-being into the workplace on a organizational cultural level. So it's not something that you can address by coming in at the middle. It has to go from the top down. It has to roll down, and all members of the leadership team see this aspect of their life as important, because otherwise they're going to be, saying, well, do this, but they're doing something else, and that never really works. It doesn't matter what you're applying it to.
Yeah. And what companies are coming to you? I mean, you don't have to name names, but I mean, from the kind of, is this banks, or is this I don't know, automobile? Is this hotel? Whatever.
Quite mixed, really, I would say. So a lot of fast-moving consumer goods, IT industry. I do quite a lot of work with IT. Hotels, of course, because of my background. Yeah, really, it's across the board, Gabby, because if, for example, I'm still working with organizations on leadership, I will always bring in the well-being through that training.
Yeah.
If an organization wants to bring in this on a organizational level, on an organizational cultural level, then I'm working with the top teams to roll it down through the organization. And I may or may not do some leadership training. It depends on the organization, what they want, and how best to go about bringing this culture of well-being in the workplace into the organization.
And what do you think how we are doing? Are we looking at the workplace enough after ourselves? So do we do enough well-being, or is it still at the very beginning?
I personally think that it's very surface at the moment. I think that's for different reasons. There are organizations that are saying, well, okay, we need to do something. And they are doing things like providing a counseling hotline, massage, some form of exercise, access to some form of exercise, encouragement in these areas. But this is, for me, this is very surface. It's good, don't get me wrong. But it's not dealing with the issue. And the thing is, you have to deal with the problem, not the symptoms. Mm-hmm. And it's like dealing with a person's health. You know, if a person comes to you with poor digestion and you just treat the pain, you're not dealing with the issue. And it's the same in an organization, is that these things are all very good, but they're not treating the problem. They're treating the symptoms.
Yeah. Thank you that you said this. This is as a German, lived a long time in Eastern Europe and now quite already a while in the UK. I see in traditional medicine, or if I go here to the GP, what I try not to do, to be honest, it is like getting some painkillers, get away from it, but not looking into the actual problem. So do you see it the same way, or is this only my view of things, or is it maybe even already better in the UK now?
No, I see it the same way. In the majority of cases, I see it the same way. I think the picture's not that simple. I mean, you've got government pushing, for example, mental health. Companies have to do more for mental health. Companies have to do more for menopause. Companies have to do more. And so what happens is the sort of reaction is, let's create a checklist, let's create a simple process that somebody might be able to raise this problem or this issue. But it doesn't really address, well, how do I, for example, if I'm going through menopause and it's affecting my performance, how do I raise this to my male boss?
Yeah.
You know, and it's not always going to be a male boss. It may be a female boss, but how do I start that conversation? And how do I, as a male boss, respond and say to this woman, who actually, to be quite honest with you, I've got no idea what you're feeling, why you're feeling it, and really, why don't you, I'm really not the right person to talk to here. They're equally as uncomfortable. So how do we give the tools for those managers to be able to at least sit calmly and say, I don't know a great deal about this. However, tell me more about your symptoms, and let's see how I could best support you.
Okay. So, but you're now giving as well a lot of one-to-one clinics or seminars, and you work very much with or on kinesiology. Can you explain this more in detail?
Yeah, so kinesiology is kinetic. It's the use of energy running through the muscles to test what is going on in the body. And then once you understand what's going on in the body, you then use the same muscle testing to free that energy, to find then the way to rebalance the body. That's in its simplistic form. So for example, if we look at my arm now, well, if we put my arm here, yeah, you can see it. My arm, muscles are not working. I lift my arm, muscles are working. Now, if, for example, somebody says to me, well, I'm allergic to tomatoes, and this is a tomato, and I put this on the body of that person, and I test whether they can hold their muscle, and they are intolerant or allergic to tomatoes, they will not be able to hold their muscle, to hold their arm when I put a little bit of pressure on it. All right, so assuming that's the process in a simplistic term, what I'm doing then is I'm going through different questions to the body directly. I'm not asking the person, do you have pain here, or are you allergic to tomatoes? No, the body tells me, because I'm asking these different questions using test files, or using different, for example, vitamins, minerals. Somebody might be low in vitamin D. I'll test that. Yes, low. Okay, they need vitamin D. And that's how the process goes until the body says, I can't process anymore. And that means that the session is finished for the day, or for that time, which is usually about 40 minutes. And then the person will have some different things. It may be herbs, it may be vitamins, minerals, it may be orchid essences, mushrooms, various things that they need to take over the next 4 to 6 weeks to help the body to continue to process the rebalancing of the energy field and the physical body. And hopefully they then make progress, and then they come back and we start looking at what's now happening. So in essence, it's like taking an onion and you're peeling off different layers each time until you get to the center of the onion, which is the cause of the problem.
Yeah. And that works for mental problems as well?
Yes and no. Yes and no. That covers such an enormous field of possibilities, which is why I say yes and no, because it would depend what is the person is what mental issues the person is coming for, that I might be able to treat them. So, for example, if you look at things like autism, it can help alleviate some of the symptoms, but it won't take it away more often than not, because it's been going on maybe from birth. And therefore you're peeling not only the onion, but you're peeling back years. But it can alleviate symptoms through rebalancing the energy field and correcting diet, because a lot of autistic tendencies are stimulated by poor diet.
Okay. And with depression or anxiety?
Definitely. definitely. Again, depression is quite a difficult one, and it depends what degree of depression somebody has. You know, is it occasional? Is it something that's just started happening? Post-COVID, we see a lot of people with depressive tendencies as opposed to depression. But yes, yes, it can, and anxiety, absolutely.
Okay. And yeah, I asked already how you're treating. So it is one-to-one clinics, or is it giving seminars?
It's very difficult to give a seminar on kinesiology. You can do it on the process itself, but it's very difficult to do it to a group when you treat an individual, because you can't treat a group. You can only treat an individual with kinesiology. Certainly the principles of a healthy diet, a healthy lifestyle, a good work-life integration, this can all be done via training with a group or education with a group, but the kinesiology cannot.
Yeah. When do people come to you? When the traditional medicine isn't anymore working, or at one point they come to you?
So I would say you've got people, perhaps like myself, and certainly sounds like you also, who would prefer to treat themselves naturally if possible. And certainly the medical system for acute problems is definitely the place to go. You wouldn't want to be in a car accident and have somebody like me try and treat you. That's you want to be in hospital and you want to be sorted. This is clear. So those people that want to find a natural solution, for example, women going through menopause, that's a very good example of that. I don't want to go on to HRT. I think there's something else. Can we try herbs and kinesiology? And it works fantastically. Then there's the other group of people who have what I would call chronic disease, and they've been on medication for years and they're getting worse, and they're not progressing in any way, and they're like, you haven't got answers for me, I need to look somewhere else. And invariably what we do is we work alongside the medical field to support what they're doing, but also support the client to alleviate certain symptoms or slow the process down. For example, with Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, this goes along very well with the traditional treatments.
And are you treating more women or men, or younger or older? How do you see the situation there?
I would think my clientele is probably average age of 32 up to 80 in this range. There are more women. However, I do have male clients with all kinds of things going on. I think the reason for that, Gabby, is not because they don't want to. It's because when they're sick, they don't think about going to the doctor or think about going anywhere more until it's really bad, or they have a wife or a girlfriend that's saying, or a partner that's saying, you know, listen, you need to do something about this. And therefore they step over the threshold and say, yeah, you're right, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, health comes with healthy eating. So you said already a little bit about it. So can you offer like a diet plan as well? What is good to eat and not to eat with certain conditions?
Absolutely. So that's the naturopathy part of the treatment, is looking at a person's lifestyle looking at, and in looking at that, it's sleep hygiene, for example, it's diet, it's hydration, it's exercise or movement, it's the type of exercise they do. So, for example, I'm treating a young male, early 30s, who's extremely stressed. He works incredibly hard, very long hours in his own business, and then he goes and works out in the gym at full speed, you know, doing pumping iron and running, and like, whoa, your poor body is under stress 24/7. Yeah. Your exercise needs to be more about stretching, more about breathing, more about flexibility, rather than trying to break your record of how much weight you can pick up, or how long you can run for, or how fast you can run, or whatever it is. So I look at all that, and I look at the diet, and I won't give, generally I don't give, you know, a day-to-day diet plan. It's generally, it's okay for your condition. So this same person actually that springs to mind, he definitely has an intolerance to wheat, without a doubt. You need to stay off wheat. Full stop. There is no compromise here. You need to come off wheat. Yeah. He doesn't eat enough vegetables, so you need to cook from fresh. So he's constantly in takeaways, and he's not a very good example. Bless him. You know, it's because he's so stressed and so busy, he doesn't have time to think about going and buying fresh ingredients and cooking for himself. So I said to him, well, why don't you think about ordering these boxes that get delivered to your door? You've got your recipe there, all the ingredients. It'll take you 15 minutes, fresh meal. Yeah. So it's more like that, rather than saying, okay, at breakfast, I don't know, you need to have pineapple and a boiled egg with a rice cracker. Lunch, I don't do that.
Understand. So yeah, in general, we are in difficult times, post-COVID, you said already, war in Europe, inflation, redundancy, middle age, yeah, like me and you, probably. So what is good to do for ourselves on a day-to-day base to stay mentally and physically fit? If you could say this in 1 to 3 examples, or what should we definitely avoid, or what do we definitely mostly wrong? I mean, it's a quite big question, but I'm sure you will have an answer.
Well, perhaps the first place to start is with hydration. Most people are dehydrated, and when you start to think, oh, I'm thirsty, you're already really dehydrated. So if you keep, you know, on your desk next to your computer, you keep a glass of water and you're drinking that throughout the day, several glasses, you really need to be aiming for 8 a day.
It's there. I have it, but I'm not drinking it.
Maybe you need to move it a bit closer, or you know, I mean, I wouldn't set an alarm necessarily. But the thing about when you start to drink water, if you're not used to it, you don't have the need for it. But once you get to the correct level, your body's constantly telling you you need to. So then it doesn't become an issue. And of course, you can do that through herbal tea as well, which is good. So hydration is really key, especially for mental health. Our brain is 70 to, I think it's either 70 or 80% water. So if you're dehydrated, your brain is not functioning properly. Everything becomes an effort. Moving is very key. Moving, and that doesn't mean, you know, doing a marathon. It just means when you've got a break, or change the way that you work. So you're standing up sometimes, do your meetings standing up, walk outside at lunchtime, walk to a place where you then sit outside and have your salad or your soup or whatever it is. try to move, get off the bus one stop earlier, park furthest from the supermarket door. You know, all these things which we don't have to create time to do, we can do them, build them very easily and into our everyday system. Certainly trying to begin your day with all the positives that are in your life. So thanking whoever it is, it doesn't matter, whoever you think is there, whether it's God or it's Allah or it's just a different being, it's the universe, it doesn't matter. Just be grateful and thank for the beautiful sun that's risen, for your good night's sleep, for your beautiful dog, for your wonderful family, for your house you live in, just anything just to set your mind in a positive frame of mind from the very word of starting your day. If you can, do a little bit of stretching, and some of the yoga poses are just perfect for this because you only need 10 minutes and you just stretch and breathe again at the beginning of your day, and then go on and carry on with your normal routine, showering and preparing yourself. This kind of routine really sets your mind up to be positive for whatever's coming your way. And we don't know half the time what's coming our way. We didn't know about COVID. We didn't know about the situation in Eastern Europe at the moment. We didn't know about a lot of things. And when we're more grounded, that's the right word, when you're grounding yourself by being thankful, by noticing all the small positives, by stretching and breathing and being in contact with the elements, you know, with nature. This is just helping us all to just take things more in our stride and flow better. Which means when you flow, you don't block energy in your body, therefore you don't create disease, dis-ease.
Yeah, understood. Okay, lovely. I think we could talk quite a while about it in more detail, but I would say we leave it here. Thank you very much, Rachel. And hopefully it was interesting for my viewers to hear about it.
Wonderful, Gabby. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a pleasure, and I'd be glad to talk longer if we need to do round two.
Round two, exactly. Okay. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. I've got the world in my pocket. I've got the world in